Learn English through story. The Dark Temptation. The small town of Dalek was nestled in the shadow of Blackthorn Forest, an ancient and sprawling wood that seemed to stretch endlessly into the horizon. The townsfolk lived simple lives, working the land and trading with neighboring villages. But there was one place everyone in Dalek knew to avoid at the heart of Blackthorn, where a crumbling mansion, Thorncrest Manor, stood forgotten and shrouded in mystery. Legends said that the manor was cursed, a place where dark forces had taken root long ago. People whispered of strange lights seen in the windows at night, of eerie sounds carried on the wind, and of those foolish enough to enter the mansion who were never seen again. Parents told their children the stories to keep them from venturing too far into the woods, and even the bravest men of Dalek kept their distance. Among the people of Dalek was a man named Elias, a carpenter by trade and a man of quiet ambition. Elias had always considered himself a practical man, grounded in the realities of life and uninterested in the superstitions that gripped his fellow townspeople. To him, Thorncrest Manor was nothing more than an abandoned house, crumbling under the weight of time and neglect. But deep down, Elias was a man who yearned for something more than the simple life Dalek offered. As the years passed, Elias began to feel trapped by the monotony of his existence. He was skilled in his trade, well respected in the town, but the days felt long, and his ambitions seemed to wither in the quiet routine of village life. He dreamed of wealth, of influence, of leaving Dalek behind to make a name for himself in the world. But such dreams seemed out of reach for a man like him, tied to the land and limited by his humble beginnings. One evening, as Elias sat by the fire in his modest home, an unexpected visitor arrived, a traveling merchant named Malek, whose reputation for trading in rare and exotic goods had spread through the region. Malek was a mysterious figure, tall and gaunt, with sharp eyes that seemed to see straight through people. He had a way of speaking that drew you in, his voice smooth and persuasive. "Elias," Malek began, as he sat across from him, "I've heard of your skill with wood, and I've seen the furniture you've crafted. Fine work, indeed. But I sense you desire more than a carpenter's life, don't you?" Elias felt a stirring in his chest. He had never voiced his frustrations to anyone, but something in Malek's words struck a chord. "I've worked hard my whole life," Elias said, cautiously. "But yes, I've always dreamed of something bigger, more wealth, more a broken bar significance." Malek smiled, as though he had been expecting exactly that response. "Then I have an offer for you. I know of a way to fulfill those dreams, to give you the wealth and power you crave. But it comes at a price." Elias leaned forward, intrigued. "What kind of price?" "Something easily within your reach," Malek replied, his tone conspiratorial. "Thorncrest Manor holds a secret, Elias. Deep within its walls lies a source of great power. It was left there long ago by a sorcerer who dabbled in dark arts. The townsfolk are afraid of the place, but the truth is, that power waits for someone brave enough to claim it. All you need to do is enter the manor, find the relic, and the power will be yours." Elias stared at Malek, his heart racing. Could it be true? The idea of supernatural forces seemed absurd, but the lure of power and wealth was undeniable. "And what would I do with such power?" he asked, skeptical but intrigued. You could shape your own destiny, Malak replied, his eyes gleaming. The relic grants the ability to influence minds, to bend others to your will. Imagine what you could do with that kind of control. You could rise to the highest ranks, build an empire, rule kingdoms. All it takes is the courage to seize the opportunity. Elias hesitated, his mind swirling with possibilities. He had always been skeptical of the supernatural, but the thought of leaving his small life behind, of controlling his own fate, was intoxicating. What's the catch? Elias asked, knowing that something so tempting couldn't come without a cost. Malak's smile faded, replaced by a more serious expression. The power comes from darkness, Elias. It will grant you everything you desire, but it will also demand something in return of your soul. Over time, the more you use it, the more it consumes. The choice is yours. You can take this chance, seize greatness, or continue living the life you have now. The room fell silent as Elias weighed his options. His mind screamed caution, but his heart, his ambition, pulled him toward the offer. The life he had now was comfortable, but it was small. The life Malak described as a life of power, wealth, and control was everything he had ever wanted. And so, with a deep breath, Elias made his choice. "I'll do it," he said, his voice steady. "I'll go to Thorncrest Manor and claim the relic." Malak nodded, as though he had expected nothing less. "Then it's settled. Remember, once you take the relic, the power is yours. But use it wisely, Elias. It will tempt you, and it will test you." That night, Elias packed what little he needed for the journey to Thorncrest Manor. His mind was consumed with thoughts of what lay ahead of the power he would wield, the life he would create for himself once he had the relic in his possession. As he entered Blackthorn Forest, the moon hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the path. The trees seemed to whisper as he passed, their branches like skeletal fingers reaching toward him. When Elias finally reached the manor, its decrepit state was worse than he had imagined. The stone walls were cracked and overgrown with vines, the windows dark and empty, like hollow eyes staring into the void. Yet he felt no fear, only determination. This was his chance to change everything. He pushed open the heavy wooden door and stepped inside. The air was thick with dust, and the smell of decay lingered in the hallways. As he moved deeper into the manor, following Malak's directions, he found himself drawn to a hidden chamber in the basement, where the relic was said to be kept. The chamber was small and dark, lit only by a single beam of moonlight that streamed through a crack in the ceiling. At the center of the room stood a pedestal, and on it lay a small, black stone, smooth, polished, and cold to the touch. Elias approached it slowly, his heart racing. He knew this was the relic, the source of the power he had been promised. Without hesitation, he reached out and grasped the stone. The moment his fingers made contact, a surge of energy coursed through him, filling him with a strange warmth and an overwhelming sense of strength. The darkness that had once seemed so terrifying now felt like a comforting embrace, wrapping around him like a cloak. Elias could feel the power within him, pulsing just beneath the surface, waiting to be unleashed. He smiled, knowing that his life was about to change forever. In the days that followed, Elias began to test his newfound abilities. At first, It was small things like convincing a neighbor to lend him money, persuading the local merchant to lower his prices. But as he grew more confident, his ambitions expanded. Soon, he was influencing the mayor, guiding decisions in his favor, ensuring that he received the best contracts and the most lucrative opportunities. The townspeople began to notice Elias's sudden rise in wealth and influence, but no one dared to question it. He had become untouchable, a man of immense power and authority. And with each new success, the darkness within him grew, feeding on his desires, whispering promises of even greater heights. But as the weeks turned into months, Elias began to feel the cost of the power he had claimed. The darkness that had once seemed so alluring now felt like a weight pressing down on him, suffocating him. His dreams were plagued by nightmares, visions of shadows closing in, of faces twisted in agony. Worse still, he felt a growing emptiness inside, as though the very essence of who he was had begun to slip away. One night, as Elias sat alone in his grand home now filled with the riches he had long desired, he realized that no amount of wealth or power could fill the void that had taken root in his soul. He had everything he had ever wanted, yet he felt more lost than ever. Desperate for answers, Elias sought out Moloch, finding the merchant in the same place they had first met. "You didn't tell me this would happen," Elias said, his voice shaking with anger and fear. "You didn't tell me the power would consume me." Moloch regarded him with a cold, knowing smile. "I told you there would be a price," he said calmly. "The power you took is not yours to control, Elias. It is darkness, and darkness always demands more. The more you use it, the more it takes from you." Elias's hands trembled as he realized the full weight of his mistake. He had been so consumed by his desire for greatness that he hadn't seen the cost of the loss of his soul, bit by bit, to the very thing he had thought would set him free. "Is there a way to stop it?" Elias asked, his voice barely a whisper. "To undo what I've done?" Moloch's smile faded, replaced by a look of pity. "There is no escape from the darkness once it takes hold," he said. "The only way to be free is to give up the power." "But you won't do that, Elias. You've tasted it now. And the temptation will always be there. The darkness owns you." Elias staggered back, the weight of Moloch's words crushing him. He had traded his soul for power, and now he was trapped in a prison of his own making. No matter how much he had gained, it would never be enough to fill the emptiness inside. The darkness would continue to take, until there was nothing left of him. With a heavy heart, Elias turned and walked away, knowing that he had sealed his own fate. He had been tempted by the promise of greatness, but in the end, the cost had been far too high. The allure of power and success can be overwhelming, but true happiness cannot be found in material wealth or control over others. When we give in to the darker parts of our desires, we risk losing ourselves in the process. True fulfillment comes not from what we can gain, but from who we are, and the choices we make to stay true to ourselves. I hope you enjoyed the story. If you enjoyed, then please like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.